Quick fire information from the Ranveer show. This is our highlights channel, TRS Clips. Subscribe and enjoy the video. What's America like, dude? Because so we had Priyanka Chopra on the show.
Yeah.
Who gave this whole narrative about how it is not easy for Indian people to actually relocate to America and then start from scratch again.
Not at all.
I kind of think it's just her and you who've done it very successfully in the mainstream.
Nowhere even close at the levels, man. Like Priyanka's the global Indian. I walk into rooms where they're like, you're Indian like Priyanka Chopra, no? So like that's a thing now.
Dude, you've been on like the Tonight Show and all these things.
Yeah, sure, but not like Priyanka Chopra.
Okay.
I've performed on the Tonight Show. Priyanka Chopra's on the couch, man. It's a big difference, you know? So I could not have more respect for what she's done. And when she says it's hard, I fully understand how hard it is for me now. And therefore, how much harder it would have been for her to break down the initial door.
Yeah.
You know?
How hard is it for you now?
It is hard. You know, in terms of, I have an Indian accent. So a lot of times I'll go into auditions and they'll be like, can you do the American accent? Which you do. Sometimes you're an actor, so you're paid to put yourself into other shoes. I think they have such a palatable version of Indian culture that has coexisted for so long with them. And you find this everywhere you go in the world. There's like a local Indian perspective. There's a British Indian, na? And that's been in 6 comedy shows. There's an Indian in America and that's been in 6 comedy shows. Whether that's Apu from The Simpsons or somebody else. There's a Canadian Indian, which is like a Russell Peters, right? So suddenly, if you come in going, no man, I'm from the billion. You know, like I'm from today India. They don't know. You know what I mean? They don't know what that perspective is. And no judgment for not knowing. They've got enough stuff happening in their own country. They're busy. But bringing them around to their perspective is a tough one. Like, you know, I remember the first time I did like a late night appearance. Everybody was very nervous with me going out. And I'll tell you why. It's because my opening joke was, hey, my name is Veerdas. I'm from India. Have you been? If you haven't been, you must go because your jobs have. All right. That was the opening joke on primetime American television, which is very middle of the road, you know, conservative America. Then I did a bit about how American women don't deserve Indian men. And then I did a bit about how my accent is a perspective. It's not a punchline. Then I made fun of Donald Trump. Right. So in a world in which every comic with an Indian accent has been coming in going, oh, what beautiful buildings you have, etc., etc. They just weren't used to
someone roasting them or their culture.
Not even roasting them, but having a modern perspective on who they were. You know?
What's happening in America? You've been there for a while now.
I think it's going through a mental health crisis that nobody's talking about. I think Donald Trump just felt like everything was on fire all the time. So Biden, jo bhi bolo, he's like a, you know, an old man and all of that stuff. But I'd pick that over, irrespective of like left wing, right wing, just everything feeling like it was on fire all the time.
Yeah. Dude, and I think if your top influencer, which is your president, says certain things, it goes and kind of encapsulates the rest of the country as well. Like the average person starts thinking in those tangents.
Well, I was saying this to a bunch of Americans the other day. I think America is getting used to the fact or grappling with the fact that it is no longer the biggest seat at the table and that there are many seats at the table now, us included. You know? Sometimes I feel like America is like the hot girl from high school. You know?
Who's not hot anymore.
No, who's hot, but she's now back at the reunion and now everybody else is hot too. And she has to deal with the fact that we all went and we worked out and we got successful and now we're just as popular at the reunion as she is.
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Do you think that far? Like in terms of, are you going to stay in America?
I don't stay in America. I live in Goa and Bombay. I tour the world. So I went to 25 countries this year. I did 183 shows. I like going to America for about 3-4 months a year because that is where some of the best comics in the world are. And I want to bat at a global level. I think there's a vacancy for like a global Indian voice, you know.
Multiple.
Right? In every genre, in every this thing, right? An authentic Indian voice.
Unfortunately, and I spoke about the same thing to Priyanka Chopra.
Yeah.
Dude, unfortunately, we need to go there and become big for a lot of people here to consider us cool.
No, Ray, not cool, but just to like, okay, there's a club called the Comedy Cellar in New York. It's the best comedy club in the world. All right. They don't talk to agents. They don't talk to managers. You can't use any pull to get inside. They don't release the lineup. It's sold out 4 shows a day, every day of the week. The only way to get into the Comedy Cellar is to have 2 comics who are regulars vouch for you to do an audition. So after 3 Netflix specials and 4 world tours, I went and gave an audition, 3-minute audition at the club. And they passed me and I started getting these 15-minute spots. First night that I was there, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart. All right. Which is fine. It's a great story and all of that stuff. But all the other comics who were 20 years in terrified me. So they were so good. They had so much more experience than I had. So it's been a while since, you're backstage saying, can I follow this guy? Or can I follow this girl? You may not know their names, but they're assassins. Or like, I was at the Cellar and I was doing the 8 p.m. show. 8 p.m. show is 5 comics, 15 minutes each. Damn nice. Costs you $11. Chris Rock comes in to try his new material. Chris Rock is one of the best comics in the world, we could say. He bumps the entire lineup. So I was number 3. He came in after number 2. Main gaya. He does a 1 hour, 10-minute show. So imagine you spent $11, went to a club on Monday night, and you saw Chris Rock's new special. Right? For an hour, the best comic in the world. And then I was just hanging out to take school. See how a great craftsman does it. And the agent, the booker, the manager of the Cellar, her name is Liz. He's like, yo, go up after him and do 5 minutes. Right? While they drop the checks for people. So I'm dying. I have to follow Chris Rock for 5 minutes. Right? And I went up there. I killed, man. Did really, really well. And I thought, okay, got away with it. She made me do it 10 nights in a row.
Wow.
So for 10 nights, I would watch one of the greatest comics in the world, do his stuff, die on the inside, and then go up and close. That's experience you can't buy. Do you know what I mean? So in that sense, not to like sell lots of tickets or play arenas, for that stuff, America is very useful. To do
Pushes you to grow.
Pushes you to grow. In India, touch wood, God's been very kind wherever we go. There's lots of people, etc. But you can't tell if a joke works or not with 4,000 people or 3,000 people. You need like 100 people in a basement. And then if there's a silence, then the crowd will slap you.
Do you get hit on by a lot of women from other countries?
All, man.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive, dude.
Okay.
I'm positive. I would notice.
A lot
it would be such a rarity that I would notice.
If you enjoyed this video, here's a playlist full of videos kind of related to the one that you just saw. Enjoy.